Do you see, taking a product like AG1 as being a potential, one potential solution to the fact that our food supply has become nutrient depleted and so many of us are walking around with nutrient inadequacies?
There's no replacement for food. That I will tell you, I would be doing a disservice as a clinician to tell you that just take these few supplements and you don't really need to have your broccoli or your cauliflower or your berries. No, those things are absolutely necessary because there's more to that than we could imagine to get in a scoop or a capsule or powder or anything like that. But the fact is that the diversity of nutrients that we consume is a problem. If you talk to a lot of parents these days, kids are pretty picky eaters. Most kids are picky eaters, which is why processed foods have flourished, because you can make them taste the same and taste really yummy very consistently, and you can fortify them with a few different nutrients and solve the problem. The issue is not the micronutrients in many cases. It is, as we discussed, obviously, it's the other things. It's the phytonutrients that are in foods. There's a lot of attention to prebiotics. Not all prebiotics are created equal. I know there's a big focus on fiber. That is absolutely important. I do think fiber is a necessary, it's not even a nutrient, it's a constituent in food because it doesn't have any calories, etc. But to make healthy bacteria in the gut, different fiber perform differently. Where I think science is moving, and I think we're starting to get there, is that there are prebiotics that are not fiber. So 10, 15 years ago, you would think prebiotic, fiber, psyllium husk, or the pectin from apple. We're starting to learn that phytonutrients like proanthocyanidins, EGCG, other polyphenols in foods, flavonols, these are actually prebiotics that are not fiber. And I usually tell people these nutrients are first for our gut and then our body. And that's actually true because these molecules are often too big to absorb. Some carotenoids are just way too big to absorb. The gut needs to metabolize them, and it's those metabolites that actually have an impact. So unless you're eating, 10 to 15 different foods a day or in a week, you're not going to get this nutrient diversity. So how do we solve that? How do we give people this diversity of nutrients that they typically wouldn't consume on a daily basis? Acerola berry. I don't know if I've ever had an acerola berry. Goji berry, I'll have those on occasion. But to incorporate these on a daily lifestyle, number one, your calorie intake would be tremendous, but also it's impossible to get all these different nutrients. And we know that our gut actually wants these nutrients. It's just really, really hard to find in a society that's so depleted in these polyphenols and these nutrient diversity.
Yeah, it's so true that we're each walking around with basically like a drug factory in our large intestines, and like you might eat certain compounds, certain phytochemicals that appear one way, on their way in, but then once your gut bacteria get at them, they end up churning out all of these like postbiotic metabolites.
Yep.
And those polyphenols and phytochemicals, yeah, as you mentioned so eloquently, like they're not always, some of them have really poor bioavailability, but it's those metabolites that we're now, I think, starting to believe and see in some cases are responsible for the health benefits associated with like fruit and vegetable consumption.
Yeah, and you have to set the gut up for success. And it's not always just the phytonutrients that the bacteria or the beneficial commensal bacteria in your gut would make. It's what those bacteria make, these lactobacillus and bifidobacteria and multiple different taxa in your gut. But it's also what do they inhibit? So one of my microbiology professors taught me this incredible term, and I always remember it when I talk about this. It's competitive inhibition. He kind of mentioned to me in ways like, if you have a lot of good guys in there, they're going to outcompete and inhibit all the other guys that you don't want in there. So what we want to do is provide the prebiotics to allow these beneficial bacteria to flourish. And then they're going to make things that the other detrimental or pathogenic or unwelcome bacteria are not going to want to have. And it's actually going to kill them or inhibit their growth. Now there's straight up antimicrobial herbs. There's things like oregano and thyme and sage, like all these things are antimicrobial. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about things that keep the microbiome in balance and in check. I'm going to say something controversial, which is fair. I think in this context, because I think you would understand it, there's a lot of attention to microbial diversity. That is true. A healthy microbiome is oftentimes associated with a diverse microbiome. But a diverse microbiome tells us nothing about its function, which is something that we need to start looking into. The omics, metabolomics, metagenomics. These are fancy, crazy words, but basically saying measure the things that these bacteria make, and that'll tell you more than how many there are or how diverse they are. They'll tell you what they're actually doing. So you can have a very diverse community, but if they're all really different types of bad guys or burglars or villains, right? That's doesn't tell you very much. There's a lot of bad guys in there. What you want
so you're saying
is
DEI doesn't work in the gut?
pretty much.
Nor in the corporate environment. We like that. Cancel DEI. No, I appreciate that. So diversity it kind of like on paper sounds like it would be a universally positive thing, but it's about the function. It's about the merit of those bacteria, those species. What are they actually doing in the gut?
Yeah, and
it's just a funny analog. That's what society is,
It really is. I mean, there's so many analogies for the gut. It's a garden, it's a community, it's an ecosystem. I mean, it is. But the data from 15 years ago was around microbial diversity, alpha and beta diversity. And as I started treating patients, I'm seeing, okay, we're doing microbiome tests and I'm seeing diverse microbiomes and it changes so quickly. I can change your microbiome in 3 days. You go from vegan to keto or vegan to carnivore or vice versa, macrobiotic, whatever you want to do, fasting, I can change your microbiome very, very quickly. That tells me nothing about how it's functioning. What we want to understand is what are those things making? What short-chain fatty acids are being made? What are the genes that are turned on that we can measure in these bacteria that tell us what they're actually doing in the body? Are they making genes that make GLP-1? Are they making genes that make short-chain fatty acids like butyrate and propionate and acetate? Are they turning these things on? And then we can guess, okay, if we're having a more diverse microbiome and they're turning these things on, that's what we want. But if they're diverse and we're not making those things, then the outcome, there's no function there. I have no way to tell you what those things are doing for you. So I started seeing that in my patients. I'm like, this is a beautiful looking gut. Love all the Akkermansia. Love all the fecal bacterium. Love all of the lactobacilli. Not telling me what's actually happening, what's going on. So as you start getting more data and start looking at that, that's where I think the microbiome research is going, which connects to, I think, the polyphenols and the prebiotics that are providing these bacteria with the metabolites to make those things and turn up or turn off certain genes.
Hey, if you liked that video, you need to check out this one here, and I'll see you there.